Hi, Roy here on my channel, Roy Reads Anything, and today I'm going to do a tag video. So this was a tag originated by Crystal at Fibre Artsy called Why Haven't I Read These Books Yet? And that video was turned into tag form by Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads, and I was tagged by The Grim Reader. So I've mentioned three glorious channels there, which I will link to down below. Well worth checking out, subscribing to, etc. Also worth subscribing to this channel, because I talk about lots of interesting things. That's the plan. Whether that works out in practice, don't know. Okay, you be the judge. So why haven't I read these books yet? Which I understand to be looking at those books which are they're classic, they're sort of everyone reads this, they're meant to be great. It even seems like my kind of thing, yet somehow I haven't got around to reading it myself. So on this list, first prompt is a classic book. So for me, that is Dante's Inferno, maybe Dante's entire Divine Comedy. But obviously I've got the Inferno. So here's the Inferno not being read. And I almost feel as if I know it, the idea of the circles of hell, Dante and Beatrice, the fact that he goes through the stages of hell and comes out the other end. I sort of familiar with it. I would recognize the famous Gustave Doré illustrations from it, I think, if I saw them in a quiz. So yeah, sort of know it. I don't feel anything negative about it, yet I haven't read it. I've even read a pastiche of it. Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle wrote a science fiction fantasy treatment of it where a modern day guy in 1976 dies and goes to this kind of hell. So that a few years ago, when I was 48, I had a devastating health diagnosis, and as I was trying to make sense of that, a sort of frightening, uncertain experience, being plunged into this new frightening and uncertain world, I suppose. Um, the very beginning of this book came to mind and was part of what I've used to make sense of it. I don't really need this sticker here, do I? In the middle of the journey of our life, I came to myself within a dark wood where the straight way was lost. Ah, how hard a thing it is to tell what a wild and rough and stubborn wood this was, which in my thought renews the fear. And even as it happens, the hospital where I was told this surprise thing has trees outside it, which we sometimes drive past now, and to me those trees are Dante's dark wood. So despite it being part of my geography and my literal environment, not read the book. Maybe I should. Moving on, fiction. Well, there are millions of fiction books I haven't read, obviously. And in order to sort of get a sense of what might be the top ones, I had to look at some lists like Amazon's bestsellers. There's a Wikipedia best-selling books of all time thing. And yeah, I've not read To Kill a Mockingbird. Again, no reason not to. Partly, we might have had it at school, and unfortunately, the way we were tested on texts at school, certainly at O level, sort of pre-16 level, it was so easy for me to get A's without having actually read the books that in some case I just thought, well, I'm not reading that. If it's recommended to us, I'll carry on reading my science fiction books. So it might be it's one of those, but yeah, not read To Kill a Mockingbird. Another one is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I've never actually read an Agatha Christie. Again, it's that thing of thinking I know them, which is fatal, really. I mean, I thought I knew The Island of Dr Moreau by H.G. Wells from adaptations and just sort of knowing roughly the story. When I was like, we read it as a course book, it's like, blimey, this is amazing. You know, it's like, it's lots of characteristics I wasn't expecting from that book or from any H.G. Wells book. So I thought I knew it, but it turns out I didn't. Anyway, yes, To Kill a Mockingbird. If I was going to make a list out of this, I guess I'd get onto that. Third prompt is a non-fiction book. My fear was that the sort of top-selling books I've not read would be sport. Well, apparently, according to Wikipedia, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay is a massive selling book, which I've certainly not read. Another one a bit further down the list, Baby and Childcare, also not read, not having children, not really having a need to, and yet I remember this book. This was on the shelves when I was growing up, suspiciously well thumbed, as if my parents had read it a lot while they were dealing with a small child, which would be me. So Dr. Benjamin Spock, obviously cool that his name is Spock, was a massive seller, and I think it introduced more liberal ways of child rearing than were existed before. When I gather that people, it was things like you can only feed the babies on set hours, and you mustn't deviate from that. Don't just feed them when they're hungry, stuff like that. So it sort of belongs in the liberal 1960s, maybe. Anyway, yeah, not read that one. Moving down the list, another one that's a huge seller, probably because the scouting is such a massive thing. Scouting for Boys by Baden Powell. I was never a scout, never one of those active kids, but I'm a lot more supportive of it these days. But yeah, Scouting for Boys. A genre book I haven't read. As a Western fan, it's kind of mad I've never read The Virginian by Owen Worcester, arguably the first Western, so I'd like to get onto that sometime. Book owned for the longest time has not yet been read. Now, I've seen this cropping up quite a lot in these videos. It's the Homer translations by Robert Fagles. Now, I think these earn their place in our house by looking nice, but I still haven't read them. Obviously, feel as if I should, and we'll get to that sometime. But there they go. Just blow the dust off. So that would be my longest owned and yet not read books, I think. So that's the end of the tag for me. I will simply say this is one to tag yourself if you think you want to do it, basically, because I haven't thought through some people to tag. But yeah, interesting thought process. Meanwhile, I will see you next time. Bye.